Full House was an ABC sitcom that ran from 1987 to 1995. They aired 192 episodes, and most were the general sort of feel-good, family-friendly comedy. The show had its fans and its critics, and many articles have been written about it over the years. However, there is one episode that doesn't get talked about at all. This was episode 123B, otherwise known as the Lost or Haunted episode. So what was this episode, and why is it being erased from television history? Titled Lonely Home, the episode was guest directed by German experimental film director Hans Lichtenberg, and is notable for several reasons, the main being that the character Danny, instead of being played by regular actor Bob Saget, is instead being played by a Norwegian actor and criminal known only by the stage name Larval. To accomplish this performance, Larval brought in a custom-designed skin suit of their own making, and throughout the episode, the skin suit's mask and makeup is so good, it's almost impossible to tell that it's not the original actor. However, there are subtle signs in the performance that give it away, and if you look closely around the eyes and mouth, you can almost see the lines where the skin suit ends. The episode itself starts out fairly normal, but as it goes on, it gradually takes on a stranger and darker tone. The laugh track becomes at first less comfortable, the audience seemingly growing audibly uneasy, and as the episode continues, the sound of the laughter becomes more drawn out, like the audio itself has been damaged or altered. By the end of the episode, there are so many layers of audio tracks, with character voices being replaced by choirs of howling clouds of bugs and vast, sweeping winds, that it's difficult to understand exactly what's being said, and many punchlines get drowned out by the irregular score of pulsing synth music. So, who was Hans Lichtenberg, and how did he wind up working on the show? The director was first made infamous for his debut movie, 1962's My Dearly Unbeloved, which was a 3-hour static shot of a crying couple making love atop a sheet of glass while below them sits the rotting corpse of a goat. But his biggest hit was, of course, 1984's Vagzod, a sort of spiritual sequel to the Sean Connery sci-fi Zardoz. But while audiences praised Lichtenberg's film for its satirical whimsy and broad appeal, the release of Vagzod plunged Lichtenberg himself into a deep depression, which many say he never fully recovered from. The story goes that a Full House producer, and I'm not saying which one because that's how you get sued, but one of the producers met Hans at a party in LA and was impressed by Lichtenberg's theories on the potentiality of cinema as a psychological tool. And so, a deal was struck to allow Hans access to the Full House production team for a single, unique, experimental episode. Hans Lichtenberg has entirely disappeared from the public eye since. Full House's Lost episode was his final project as a director, and at the end of the last day of filming, cast and crew could only watch in stunned horror as he severed his own right hand with a large butcher knife he'd stolen from one of the food trucks. He has never been seen again, but there are rumors on some internet message boards of a one-handed man who works out of a novelty sex toy shop in New Orleans who matches Hans's description. Of course, the most interesting and horrifyingly tragic aspect of this story involves the performance artist and actor brought in for the Bob Saget role, Larval. Little is known of Larval's true past, but it has been suggested that he was born sometime in 1945 to a family of farmers in northern Norway, and that the identity and stage persona of Larval was created to deal with the trauma he'd suffered after being lost in the woods for several weeks as a very young child. By the age of 25, Larval was an established performance artist known as the Man of a Million Masks, a skilled impressionist who possessed dozens, if not hundreds, of strangely lifelike full-body coverings which would allow him to disappear into different personas. Larvel toured much of Europe, Asia, and the Americas throughout his career, putting on thousands of shows across the world. But of course, we know now that this was all merely a cover for an ongoing series of unthinkably horrible crimes. It was 2 weeks after filming the Full House episode that Larvel was shot and killed by Los Angeles police in room 606 at the Saturn's Moon Motel Lodge. While this is not the channel to discuss the full details of his grotesque activities, what is known is that 3 new skin suits, complete with hands and faces, were found curing in the hotel bathroom. The lost episode of Full House is a strange part of TV history. The jokes are at best awkward and obtuse, perhaps stemming from the script being written by Lichtenberg, who spoke very little English. The actors all seem confused as to how to perform their seemingly familiar roles, making for an uncomfortable air which hangs awkwardly over the entire episode. It is also fairly obvious that most of the cast, except for Dave Coulier, is quite disturbed and uncomfortable with the presence of Larvel in the role of Danny. The children especially seem alarmed, like they weren't sure what was actually going on. The A-plot of the episode involves the character Jesse having a strange dream about the arrival of hungry, inhuman beings he can only describe as the Cold Ones, resulting in a great deal of paranoia and frustration amongst the other characters. By the end of the episode, it appears their fears have been realized, for as the laugh track to the final joke plays, there's a bit of audio which can be heard coming from the TV the characters in the show are watching, the audio being a newscaster's voice, stating that the arrival of the Cold Ones in New York City has prompted a wave of suicides and infanticides across the nation. The B-plot was a somewhat meta postmodern fairy tale which had the character of Michelle discovering that she was being portrayed by 2 different actors in a reveal which is oddly mirrored by the Tyler Durden twist at the end of Fight Club. What's interesting is that references to this minor subplot can be seen in subsequent episodes of the show, possibly implying that the entire episode, or at least the subplot, were in fact part of the series' larger canon, despite the episode being lost and the tragedies associated with it. The lost, or haunted episode of Full House is extremely difficult to locate. I was able to track down a copy on an old VHS I purchased online, but after being watched, the film had become too damaged to withstand the process of being transferred to a digital copy, which is why I only have a collection of still images from the episode. Every so often, somebody will show up on eBay offering to sell a copy, but I can tell you from personal experience, the vast majority of those individuals are just scammers. I'm looking at you, Josh. I know you're watching this, asshole, and I want my $60 back. If you ever get a chance to check the lost episode of Full House out, I say go for it. And if you do, make sure you watch Danny real closely. Keep an eye on his eyes and lips, and if you're careful, you'll see the cracks and catch a glimpse of the face of the true madness lurking behind the mask. Thanks for watching. And if this is your first time here, then please subscribe to the channel and share this video if you found it at all interesting, and leave a comment down below to let me know what shows you'd like me to cover in the future. Thanks, and have a great day.